For sure, not many people know that Legnica used to be some kind of a regional cinema chain center, and the area was not small at all. The first Polish cinema in the voivodeship was built here. It was this city where theatre as well as cinema life flourished. Nowadays, however, small Polish cinemas have gone to wreck and ruin and are going to be rejected. But it doesn't mean that all of them have just capitulated. Of course not. There are still particular people and places creating common last bastions of the classical cinema. They don't let us forget about traditional cinema.
The history of Legnica's cinemas begins at the end of World War II. In February 1945, just after the liberation from the German occupation, some people tried to build the first outposts of cultural life. The completed interiors of salvage buildings were restored. That is how the first cinemas appeared.
On 5th May 1945, the projection of a Soviet film Kutuzov inaugurated the activity of the Polonia cinema, later renamed as the Ognisko. One should say that it was a kind of a regional pearl, the first Polish cinema in Low Silesia. The second open cinema was the Baltic, started in 1951. The first and the only cinema which was not public, Kolejarz, appeared in 1957.
One would say in a bit pessimistic way that cinemas in Legnica are a kind of distant past. You can see them in all their splendor only in old photos, but it would be a lie because one of them does still exist, the Cinema Piast.
The Piast cinema is actually the last cinema in Legnica, with deep roots, which is still functioning, in which we can still see movies on a big screen. As the youngest among the oldest, it has already survived its older peers, becoming practically the only representative of the classical ideas of cinema.
Our lonely hero is located in the center of Legnica, in the shadow of a beautiful Gothic church, in the vicinity of the main avenues of the city heart. Located a bit out of the way, it doesn't catch your eye, but it always be in the minds of those who has come here at least once in their life.
It seems to me that anyone who has once had the pleasure of watching a movie in this cinema will keep in memory some special feeling of taking part in a cultural event. My example and the example of many young people who visited the cinema as children proves that. Of course, they couldn't realize why and how important their experience was, but we can look at it now, a few years later.
There is no doubt that the Piast cinema has a great role in local cinema industry. There is nothing more valuable and important than showing young people ambitious and difficult movies. It's important because it has an influence on what these people will interest in, which movies and what kind of contents will they look for in future. They will decide what kind of cinema will survive.
The Piast cinema has already come against people who are trying to find good films. Thanks to the Piast cinema, the special project New Horizons of Movie Education, aimed at children, youths but also teachers, is being introduced in Legnica. Teachers enroll their pupils on a chosen cycle, and from October to June they go with them to the cinema once a month. Before movie there is a lecture about problem which is shown in it. After seeing the movie, elder pupils can take part in discussion.
To otwarcie młodzieży na kino w sensie ogólnym. To dotarcie do nich i do Was, do młodzieży z filmami, które nie mają szans na to, żeby spotkać się z nimi w jakikolwiek sposób. To nie są najczęściej filmy, które są filmami nowymi, chociaż filmów starych tutaj nie spotkamy. To nie są filmy, które przebijają się poprzez falę marketingu, falę reklamy, które mają szansę dotrzeć w sposób bezproblemowy do młodzieży.
Legnica cinema industry has been changing all the time as Legnica itself. Everything is getting easier and more modern. At the same time, there is inevitable tendency to abandon things from which everything started. Rejecting classic cinemas, we resign from some valuable model of spending our time with a film, but we can still do something to save classic cinema. What cinema will be like its future, the future of Legnica cinema depends on us. In fact, it is us who will decide which film we want to see and support.